They sat me by the restroom so I wouldn't ruin their photos. But when the $2,847 bill landed in front of me, I walked out. And hours later, my dad was begging me to come back. I, 32, male, never thought a family dinner would be the moment that changed everything between me and my family. But that night turned into the perfect chance for me to finally stand up for myself. For years, I had been treated like I was not really part of the family, always pushed aside, always made to feel like I did not belong. My stepmother never liked me since she married my dad when I was 15, and my half-brother was always given everything I was denied. I tried to ignore it for years, hoping that one day things would change, but this night proved that I had been wasting my time hoping. 3 months ago, my stepmother announced that she was throwing what she called a family celebration for my half-brother's engagement. She said it with a smile like she was being generous, but I knew her well enough to know that there was always a hidden motive behind her invitations to me. This was the same woman who had spent years making me feel like an outsider in my own home. Yet now she was personally asking me to come. The celebration was planned at a very expensive downtown restaurant, the kind of place where even an appetizer could cost more than a week's groceries. She loved those places, not because of the food, but because of how fancy they looked. I arrived 15 minutes early, thinking that maybe I could get a good seat and have a normal conversation with my dad before everyone else arrived. But when I walked in, my heart dropped. They were already seated around a beautifully set table with white linens and sparkling silverware, laughing together like they were in some perfect family portrait. My dad saw me and his smile instantly disappeared. Without even saying hello, he pointed toward a lonely, wobbly wooden stool placed near the restroom door. It was so out of place that it looked like an afterthought. "Sit there," he said sharply, adding with a smirk, "It's closer to the exit. That way you don't ruin any photos." The whole table burst out laughing. My stepmother even wiped tears from her eyes, saying how practical my dad was. My half-brother added his own jab, saying the lighting was better without me in the frame. Even his fiancée, who had barely spoken to me before, giggled behind her hand. It was like they all enjoyed the joke at my expense. So I sat on that wobbly stool, feeling it shift every time I moved. From that spot, I could see them pose for picture after picture, all smiling, holding champagne glasses, showing off the engagement ring. I was not asked to join even one photo, not even to take the picture for them. It was clear that they wanted me present enough to say I came, but invisible enough to not be part of their perfect image. When it came time to order, they went for the most expensive items without looking at the prices: lobster, wagyu beef, fancy bottles of wine. My stepmother pretended to ask me what I wanted, but her tone suggested she hoped I would order something small. I chose a simple pasta dish and water. During dinner, they talked about trips and memories that I was never part of: a family cruise, a summer in Europe, a vacation to Hawaii. They spoke as if I was not even sitting there. When I tried to join in, they either ignored me or quickly changed the topic. The final straw came during dessert. My stepmother started talking about their upcoming trip to Italy, again without me. She even mentioned that it would be easier to plan activities for an even number of people. My dad nodded, saying odd numbers were always awkward for reservations. Then the server came over and placed the bill. Not in the middle of the table, not in front of my dad, but directly in front of me. The total was $2,847. My dad's face went pale. He reached for the bill, stammering that there must be a mistake, but I picked it up first. I looked through it slowly, letting the silence build. Then I leaned back and said calmly, "Don't worry, I wouldn't want to ruin the symmetry of your check either." Without another word, I stood up and walked out, straight toward the exit they had so kindly sat me near. Behind me, I heard my dad call my name, his voice now filled with panic. My stepmother's voice rose above the noise, yelling that I couldn't just leave. My half-brother shouted that I needed to pay my share, ignoring the fact that my share was only a $38 pasta, while he had ordered a $120 steak. But I didn't look back. I got into my car and drove away, feeling more free than I had in years. By the time I reached the parking garage, My phone was already buzzing nonstop. Calls, voicemails, and messages poured in one after another. In the first hour alone, my dad called 17 times. At first, his voice was sharp with anger, demanding that I come back and do the right thing. But as the minutes passed and I ignored him, the tone shifted. His words turned from anger to bargaining, and then finally into full-on panic. He said they didn't have enough credit available to pay the bill, and that the restaurant wouldn't let them leave until it was settled. He begged me to return, saying he would pay me back if I just covered it temporarily. My stepmother left one long message, and every word dripped with venom. She called me selfish, ungrateful, and said I had embarrassed the whole family. She brought up every good thing they had ever done for me, which apparently boiled down to letting me live in my dad's house during high school and including me in a couple of family photos. She said she had always known I would be a disappointment, and this proved her right. My half-brother took a different approach, sending me a long text about family loyalty and how blood was thicker than water. He said I was acting like a child and ruining his special night over just money. The irony of him saying that while expecting me to pay for his luxurious dinner was almost funny. I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in years. The next morning, my dad managed to get the restaurant manager to let them leave on the condition that they would return within 24 hours to pay the bill. That morning, he sent me several messages. Some were guilt trips about disappointing the family. Others were desperate pleas for me to help. Finally, I decided to reply to one message. I wrote, "Do you remember telling me to sit near the exit? I took your advice." 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find my dad standing there, looking like he hadn't slept since that night. His usually neat hair was messy, and his clothes looked wrinkled. He sat down on my couch and began his familiar speech about how family should stick together. He said my stepmother had just been nervous about the photos and hadn't meant anything personal. He tried to downplay everything, calling it a misunderstanding. I let him finish before asking him some simple questions. I asked him to name one family vacation I had been invited to in the last 5 years. I asked where I had been seated at every family gathering. I asked when was the last time he had called me just to talk. Not because he needed something. The room went quiet. Finally, he admitted that maybe they hadn't been as inclusive as they should have been, but he still said that didn't excuse my overreaction at the restaurant. He warned that my stepmother was thinking of cutting me off completely, and my half-brother felt I had betrayed him. I told him that was fine, because they had already been treating me like I wasn't part of the family anyway. Weeks passed without any contact, and honestly, they were the most peaceful weeks I could remember. No forced family dinners, no passive-aggressive comments, no awkward small talk while I sat on the sidelines. Then, out of nowhere, an invitation to my half-brother's wedding arrived. The envelope was fancy, my name written in elegant calligraphy. Inside was a handwritten note from him saying he hoped I could put our differences aside for his special day. I laughed out loud when I read it. After everything, he expected me to show up, smile, and pretend we were close. I sent back an RSVP declining the invitation, adding a note saying I didn't want to ruin any of their wedding photos. 3 days later, my dad called again. His voice sounded tired, not angry, just defeated. He said my stepmother had expected me to decline, but my half-brother had really hoped I would come. Then he asked me something that made me laugh even harder. He said, "If you did come, we'd probably seat you at a table in the back corner, away from the main family tables, so things wouldn't be awkward." I replied, "Perfect. That would put me close to the exit, just like you taught me." The wedding came and went without me. Mutual friends told me it was a beautiful ceremony, and my absence was noticed. My stepmother told people I was traveling for work. Even in my absence, she kept up the illusion of a perfect family. Since that night at the restaurant, my life has changed. I have stopped trying to earn a place at their table. I have reconnected with old friends, started dating someone who actually enjoys my company, and picked up hobbies I had forgotten. Most importantly, I stopped waiting for my dad to choose me over his new family. That $2,847 bill bought me freedom, and it was worth every penny I didn't spend.